please.
Mr. Vieira?
Here.
Dr. Vogt?
Here.
Mrs. Wittes?
Here.
Dr. Sally?
Here.
And Mr. Dangler will be late. And I hereby certify that this meeting has been published in newspapers in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and posted as required by law.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is right here. So where do you want me? Right there. Right here.
Okay.
If I take her picture.
So hi, everybody. For those of you who may or may not know me, I'm
Sit
Susan
down
Marco.
or talk
You want me to
to the
sit? Okay. So I'm Susan Marco. I'm one of the members of the steering committee of Long Branch HEARS, which stands for Health Education, Addiction, and Recovery Support. Also present are my husband, Larry Milon, who is also on the steering committee, retired police chief in West Long Branch, and Kathleen Flores, who runs an organization called Write Your Life, and she's also on the steering committee. So I think that sometimes people question, why do we need HEARS? Why do we need an organization like HEARS in Long Branch? So I have some relevant statistics to share with you. National reported overdose deaths in 2018, 70,000 people in a year nationally. New Jersey reported overdose deaths as of June 2019, 1,387. In 2018, 3,163 people. Monmouth County overdose deaths as of June 2019, 82. In 2018, 214, just in our little county here. For heroin, Monmouth County ranked number 4 and number 3 in 2016 and 2017 in treatment admissions for heroin, as well as other substances for use under the age of 25 years old. Monmouth County ranked 5th in the state for fatal overdose deaths in 2017 and 6th in 2016. Drug overdose, wait for this one, was the number 1 cause of death for individuals under the age of 25 from 2011 through 2016. This is ground zero, okay? If you can look at the person next to you, that's the face of addiction, okay? This is what it looks like. If you ask the person next to you if they know someone who knows someone or have a personal connection, statistics say 1 in 5 will respond yes. I personally think that that number is actually more than 1 in 5, but basically that's why we're here. Since we launched in March, Long Branch HEARS has been very busy. It's important to know that since then we have grown beyond our original group to upwards of 60 committee members who are passionate and committed to serving Greater Long Branch community. These volunteers show up and participate in regular meetings as well as supporting all of our initiatives. We started out by declaring Long Branch a no stigma city. Thank you to the mayor and to the council for that. To spread awareness about the opioid epidemic, we showed up at various events, including Ocean Fest and the Brazilian Festival. We also made presentations to a couple of local groups, including the Rotary and Shine Women of Long Branch, just to name a couple. And we continue to look for and take advantage of opportunities to do more of that. Currently, we're scheduling with Councilman Dangler and the NAACP to present there hopefully in November. But we're open, and we're willing and ready to go anywhere that we have to go to spread awareness and talk about this issue. So if anybody has any ideas, email me or Kathleen or reach out to us. We're happy to accommodate anywhere that we can. You may be wondering what these purple ribbons are about if you don't already know. On August 31st, which is International Overdose Awareness Day, Long Branch HEARS hosted an event in Slocum Park. We created a living memorial gazebo, and community members added ribbons with the names of their loved ones lost, those still struggling with substance use disorder, or messages of hope. We encourage you to read the ribbons and take in the impact that this has on our community. Our hope is to be able to display the ribbons in various locations around the city. And again, please see one of us or contact us for what might be appropriate venues for that. We'd also like to make this an annual event, and hopefully, probably a long way down the road, we won't need to look at these ribbons anymore. But for now, we'd like to continue to add to that and, you know, sort of support and honor the people in our community who are struggling and suffering through this. We estimate that throughout the afternoon at our event, there were at least 75 people who stopped by, spent some time, or stayed for the memorial service, where we think we had about 50 people. This was not a largely advertised event, so what does that tell you? You know, people saw our little signs, or they saw the press releases, and they showed up. We had 4 speakers, including Deb Doppelt and Assemblyman Eric Hotelling, who both are parents who lost their children. We had retired police chief Larry Milon, who is a parent of someone who was using for about 8 years, and by the grace of God, thank you very much, he's sober for 2 years now, and we're very proud of him. And Jenna Reedy, who's a woman in long-term recovery. They each shared their story, and we concluded with a citywide moment of silence, broadcast by Facebook Live. We would also like to make that much bigger next year and bring more of the community into that. The general consensus after the event was that it was impactful and it created a sense of community. At the end of the day, whether you have someone close who struggles or worse, have suffered the ultimate loss, it is healing to know that you are not alone. I'd like to take this opportunity to truly extend a heartfelt thank you to the 4 speakers for coming and sharing their stories. Their vulnerability is helpful in ways beyond what I think they even know. And I would also like to thank the Mayor and Senator Pallone for your presence and support at that event. And on behalf of the Long Branch Hears, most importantly, I would like to thank Petey Tucker for her candid, passionate plea to John Pallone and Anita Vogt, who grabbed the ball and ran with it before they were even really in office. Without action and passion, we would not be here talking to you right now. And this brings me to what is next. Long Branch Hears is currently working on a directory of services to be posted on the Long Branch website for now, with a long-range plan of creating our own web presence. And we're also working on creating a YouTube platform which will feature monthly interviews with various people in the industry who will share pertinent information with our community. We're also in collaboration with certain county agencies, RWJ Barnabas, and the police department to represent a continuum and to build bridges between organizations to support our community to be focused on prevention and recovery. One last, but by far not least, thank you to the mayor and the council, especially Anita, for the support of the city in these endeavors. Addressing this epidemic often feels like an uphill struggle, and it is our intention at Long Branch Hears that we will be a sustainable entity here in our friendly city. Thank you again for your time and patience to listen.
I would invite you, if you haven't already done so, that we have October 20th, which is Community Day. So I'm sure you'd be welcome to have a table if you'd like.
Yes, thank you. I just saw the post about that on your page.
Okay.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Well, Susan, if it means anything, I was there at the park right there, and I saw this young lady sitting in the back that just lost. I talked to Anita about this. Just lost a sibling, and her younger daughter said, "Don't go too early. Don't go yet." So she decided to come, and she sat in the back and she listened. The next day, I walk the boardwalk almost every day, so here I am, face to face with her. And she stopped me, and she said it was the best thing that happened to her, and opened up her mind and her heart too. So if it means anything, it's worth it.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
And Susan, I just want to say to you, thank you more than anything, to you and Larry and Catherine and Petey, because you've just been relentless in just pushing this forward. Am I right, Anita?
Totally.
Anita's
Totally.
You're just always there, always pushing, always available, and thank you.
The whole role of advocacy and awareness. We were talking the other night at our meeting of, okay, what are the things that we can, feel very, very proud of? And we were just talking before, I said, your world for Catherine, Susan, and Larry, it's, just as an example, so different from my world, and John, your world. You have been living this face-to-face for years and years and years. So many of us can be almost oblivious. We hear the statistics, you feel the pain and everything, but when it's just like brought face-to-face with, what this is all about, and that's what HERES is. That's, I think, the real value of HERES is really saying, listen to these numbers of our community, so.
And I just want to add to that and say, we have participated in, personally, we have participated in a lot of events over the years and, been as involved as we can, and I know Kathleen also. It's refreshing when a governing body gets behind a program like this, because we really need that. We need the bridges between, the organizations and the community members and the politicians and the governing forces. If we're going to really find a solution that's sustainable and long-term, we have to work together. So it's with utmost gratitude that I say that.
Thank you very much
Thank you.
for coming, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Don't forget to look at the ribbons.
Chief Roebuck? Commercial vehicle?
Well, maybe we should, George and I should introduce it a little bit. Obviously, this is a discussion we've been having for quite some time. George pulled some various samples of ordinances for council to review, to give ideas to what other towns do. Most importantly, we gave you a copy of our current ordinance, which we think probably, based upon the comments we've heard from council, will deal with 50 or 60% of your complaints, because they are really the oversized commercial vehicles and trailers on roads, all of which are currently prohibited by our ordinance. And those issues, how we deal with those are really an enforcement question. The next part of this is how you deal with just commercially registered vehicles. And those vehicles could be vehicles that might be ones that you all drive now. They just happen to be commercially registered, and they are everything from commercially registered sedan to a pickup truck or a panel van, I guess is what we've been talking about. So the next question is, what do we do about those? We gave you West Long Branch ordinance so you can see what they do. Different towns do time limits and different things. Obviously, we've looked and tried to figure out how it is that we can maybe find an alternative for people as to where they could park. The only one viable that we could come up with at this time of the year is probably Chandler and Mass, but that's not really a good solution next May. The lower Broadway parking that the city has now, if we're to understand the timing of that project, would not be available into this future, or the near future, I should say. And so we have the chief here tonight to answer any of your questions, but so if we ban all commercial, I think is it West Long Branch? West Long Branch has one that bans not only any vehicle that's registered commercial, but any vehicle that has writing or any symbol on it for a business or an address for a business or a telephone number on it. So it's, it would ban even, you see every once in a while people have a Toyota Corolla and they get paid to put a design on their car and they do that. So we ban those kind of vehicles also. So that's kind of where we are. Depending on which way council wants to go, the chief can maybe give you some ideas to what there's consequences to doing this, right? So we have to figure out, you have to decide whether or not you want to do it in the entire city, you want to do it in just the residential portions of the city, or whether you want to do it at all and maybe just start with strictly enforcing the current bans that you have on the books.
Is that?
And the one thing I want to point out is in the current ordinance, which is section L, deals with certain vehicles, you're really talking about the bigger, oversized vehicles. You've got an 8,000-pound limit, and the reason I threw in this illustration was you can see some vehicles, depending on how they're registered, would fall into either the permitted or the unpermitted. So the police would, if they see a vehicle that they think is oversized, they would have to run the vehicle, right, run a check to see what the number is.
And therein lies the problem, because you can register your vehicle for whatever you want.
Yeah.
That's how they
So if you
Gross-
register it for
gross
under
vehicle.
8,000 pounds and register it for 7,500 pounds, it doesn't fall into this. So there's nothing that we can then do about it. That's why the ordinance, for some extent, doesn't work for that part. Because it's all about what the vehicle is, registered at, and obviously everybody does tricks. So.
Our biggest complaints is our cargo vans, the vans and the cargo vans. We already have the ordinance for the heavy equipment, the heavy trucks. Biggest complaint is when somebody gets up in the morning, Sunday mornings, it opens up their front door and all they see is vans. That's the biggest complaint that we have through the whole city. And I don't know if you have any suggestions for us, but we definitely have to do something about it, because I don't blame a lot of these people. And it happens to me a lot of times. I open my front door, I have a driveway, but yet people come and park in front of my house. And I don't want to be looking at vans when I open my front door.
Yeah, and cargo vans are tough because gross vehicle weights are anywhere between 6,000 and maybe 9 or 10,000, right? So people are going to play with it and have it under,
Oh, definitely, yeah.
have it under 8,000. The problem with lowering the number now you start getting into people's regular trucks. So you lower it down to 5,000, and a person who's driving maybe an F-250, then that's going to hit his truck. So now he's not allowed to park his truck out.
No, we can't
Right
do it
for
by
the
weight.
size.
Definitely can't.
So I don't, so I don't know how to get there unless you say no vans. And I don't know if that's possible.
We have to do the commercial stuff.
Yeah.
Why can't we say no registered vans that are registered for people that don't even live here, first of all, because we have a lot of that. People are leaving their trucks in Long Ridge because they can't park in their own towns. Whether it's a van or whatever it is, tractor trailers, everything.
So you're saying it has to be registered in Long Ridge?
Well, I think maybe that might be a start. I mean, it's my own opinion, but you have people that have running their businesses out of their homes, parking the trucks on the street, and so that they can leave their cars in the driveway, and it obstructs vision when you're pulling out of your neighbor's driveway. They're not able to see pulling out, and it's a safety hazard as well. You have vans that are packed sky high with ladders on them. I mean, that's dangerous. So, I mean, I think that there can be some type of solution to this. I don't think weight's the problem. I think size is the problem, and how many are parked in one area.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you regulate that.
Well,
Maybe,
if someone's running a business, you can limit them to one truck parked outside of their.
How are we supposed to know that?
What do you mean?
How are we supposed to know major? What if it's registered in another name? What if it's registered to somebody else? Possibly you can, but can we limit them to say you can only have one truck registered to your business?
Well, if they have more than one truck, they shouldn't be all parked in one spot. That's my point. Then, I know people that have businesses that have several trucks, and they rent space like in a yard to park these trucks every day. They don't park them on the streets. And I
agree.
would think that if you
If
register.
everyone would do that, then we wouldn't have this issue, right?
Yeah, well,
Right.
that's what I'm saying. So we have to somehow find a way to enforce this so that people, like I said, just because they don't feel like parking their trucks in their driveways, they park them on the streets, and it's not right.
Right, if everyone would park those vehicles, where they could, like inside the driveways, and put their cars up on the street, we wouldn't have such a problem either.
True.
But like you said, everyone likes to park their vehicles
And
in
if
the
they're
driveway with
running-
the trucks on the street.
And if they're running their businesses out of their homes, then they should be able to accommodate that business in their home, or they should not be allowed to run the business out of their home. I mean, that's my opinion.
I hate to say it, but we might have to, the only way to cure this is maybe just put what West Long Branch has on theirs, you know? Just maybe not do the whole town, maybe do a section of it down to see how it works or something.
Well, so, yes, look, I think the first question you have to ask is whether you want the whole town or you just want residential neighborhoods there.
yeah.
The problem with doing it is if you break up the residential neighborhoods is, you know, the chief is gonna tell you this, if you ban them in this zone, they're gonna
Move to the next one.
You're gonna kick them to the next zone. So you have to make a decision about how you wanna do that, and I agree with you. So, folks that have driveways that have 2 cars parked and then park their van in the street, that's gonna be pretty easy, right? The ordinance will force them to park in their driveway. Where we'll have trouble is people who don't have driveways.
Definitely.
And tenants, that's the other problem. Because it may not be that truck is registered to that place, or more importantly, I own a business and I have another location, right? I have one vehicle, I drive it back and forth to my business. I drive it home with me. So that vehicle might be registered to a business in Eatontown, but I live here and I don't know how the police. I
don't know how we would be able to track that or how we'd be able to enforce that.
And if we say all commercial vehicles, that could mean, once again, it could be, I could have a messenger service business, and I have my vehicle is registered commercially because that's the insurance I have to have. But it's, it's a Toyota Corolla, and it has my name on the side of it, speedy delivery service, so it's no different than your car or your car. So that's the problem. We're trying to figure out how to make that distinction between the two.
Can we put like commercial cargo vans and up? Anything higher than that? You know what I mean?
Can your folks distinct? I mean, there's no registration difference between a van and a cargo van, right?
I think it just says VAN when you run the plate.
Right. That's what I
van,
thought.
right. So minivan might come up as van also.
Correct.
It does.
Right.
Yeah, in fact, if you look at George's chart, minivans are classified as bigger than
Regular
cargo vans.
Depending on the size of it, depending on the gross vehicle weight.
Correct. Depending on the gross vehicle weight.
So.
And the other thing I could say is that whatever you do, I think that you probably should have the ordinance take effect not immediately or not within 2 weeks.
No.
And then provide in the ordinance or provide that we understand what we're going to do to give the police the ability to give people flyers and say, hey, this vehicle, come, so January 1st or whatever date the ordinance takes effect is going to get ticketed if it's here, so that people can start to make other arrangements. And because you'll drive, and the answer is you'll drive a lot of behavior to the extent that that it's just inconvenient for them to pull their van into their driveway. They'll do it. It's the people who
they'll do it if they have to.
They'll do it if they have to. It's the people who don't have an alternative that we don't have an alternative.
I know a few people that are doing it right now. They park their vans on the street, and time comes 9 p.m., they put their car in the street, put the van in the driveway.
So a lot of times we get in a situation where well-meaning folks, all of us sitting around the table, we try to just keep on thinking of alternative. But you and your staff know, this is my thinking, know, I think, more of what is enforceable and what you can handle.
Enforcement's going to be a big problem.
Okay, but is it reasonable to think that let's flip this whole thing? That rather than us coming forward to say, how about this, how about that, how about that, to say, here are some models. Could you and a work team come back to us in, 2 weeks or a month and say, based on the resources, based on what we see the problem, based on all of, what we know, here's what we recommend as the best solution for Long Branch. Is that you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. But listen, we know that this doesn't work. We've sat down and talked and looked at it, and we know it doesn't work because of the weight restriction and what people do. So there probably have to be some kind of change to that. That's the first thing. If you want to see any real change, we're going to have to make some sort of change to it.
Right.
The second part of the equation is enforcement. And enforcement of parking statutes is probably last on our list. So if you want to make a difference there, once we figure out what you want to do and how we want to do this, we're going to have to talk about some kind of enforcement arm to be able to do this. Because especially in the summer when it's busy, the guys are just too busy. Guys and girls are just too busy to go around writing.
See, but I think what you're,
Parking tickets.
but I think what you're saying is reasonable. I mean, it's a collaborative effort. I mean, if we all agree this is a problem, if we all agree that we want to solve it, guess what? Your group, the police department can do this, and we need this kind of support, and we need that kind of support. But we need that master plan from somebody. And that's what I'm saying, that if you and a work team were to come back to the council in a month and say, here's what we think would be the best way to approach this, here are the different support structures that need to play a part in it, rather than us guessing. You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. I don't know if we have the answer either.
Oh, wait, right now you don't.
No, I don't
Right.
know. I mean, listen, we've talked about this for years. I don't know if we have the answer for it. It's going to be what you politically want to do, because you're going to hear about it. So, I mean,
To come back with 3 options.
I think that's what we were trying to do.
I just gave you the 3 options.
Tonight. I think they are the options. I think we've talked through this.
I think what I laid out are your options.
Are the options that
Okay.
we have. I don't think there's any options, but with other option you choose, like we had talked before about maybe a parking authority or a parking arm of doing something like that, because you can change your ordinance all you want. If we can't enforce it, it's not going to help anybody. So we need to be able to enforce it, and we need to be able to have the manpower to enforce it. And every year we add more apartments and buildings and everything here, which means we're doing more. We have less time to go out and look for oversized cars parked in places. So I think we need to come up with an enforcement strategy, no matter what we decide to do, one of these 3 options to actually do it. I mean, changing ordinance will help some, right? We'll be able to do more, but I don't know if it'll get you to where you want to be, where you'll see a noticeable difference
Will you
without some
talk
sort of
with that
enforcement.
as far as, additional officers? Is that what you're saying, to hire additional?
Well, you're talking about,
officers?
you're talking about hiring parking enforcement officers like they do in places that have parking authorities.
Correct.
That are people who check meters and those kind of things and enforce.
Which now we have meters, we have lots, we have parking lots, now we have parking issues. We can send those guys around, live zones, and do.
Because the other part about
Parking
it is
enforcement.
what we're talking about here is, we're talking about parking overnight, right? We're not talking about parking during the day.
Correct.
So now we're asking the police department to do an enforcement at the point in time where they have the least staff on.
Correct.
How many people are out there now enforcing parking? Because I see the little trucks going around Kirk Village, so.
So in the summer, we have the class 1s will do it down on the ocean front, and they'll do the parking lots, and they'll do the meters out there. And you have retired Captain Nikki Bachero is here, I think, to the end of the month, and then he's going until next April. He comes back next April. So after that, after the summer ends, after September, the class 2 specials end up around September 30th, and unless we need them for a couple more things, we have the regular staff on from October till May, and you guys know there's maybe 6 people out there at night. So we're handling calls for service, we're handling everything else we're having to do, and this, like I said, does not fall on top of our list to do. We ask them to do a lot of other things, and especially in the summer, which is where we need it, the most. In the summer is where it's busy, and guys are busy running from call to call to call, and I don't know.
So let me ask you this, why don't we do this? I mean, Chief, if you could consider Anita's suggestion, think about that. George, Lou has presented 3 options here. Another thing we could look at is get some community leaders who are familiar with the situation in the community and see how they respond to it too.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe in a month we come back or.
Yeah, but a project like that needs leadership. And, you know, so if we say to the chief, you know, this is a project, I think we're on the same page, I'm just talking about the leadership of it. If we all come back in a month from now and have the same kind of conversation, it will not have significantly moved forward. But if the chief takes the responsibility for leadership of this, we evaluated the 3 projects. If, you know, I'm making this up, you know, the level of person that we need to hire is a parking, you know, person. That's part of their recommendation coming forward. But I think someone needs to own this thing that comes back a month from now
Well,
and
we had
says.
talked about that before, doing the park enforcement stuff, but obviously we couldn't do it this year because we already have the parking.
But let me stop for 1 second. I'm not talking about the bits and pieces of the process. I'm talking about ownership of solving the problem. That's what I'm talking about. Of coming back with the recommendation, and we can banter that about. But it is something that, you know, the police department is putting forward as we reviewed some of these things. These are the options that we see. This is our recommendation. That's the. I'm talking about a different kind of approach to it.
My opinion is, unless we do something about it, nothing's going to happen.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
the thing will work is we have to put some kind of ordinance down and give the people a chance to park somewhere. My suggestion would be we have the Atlantic parking lot, the park in Atlantic Avenue, which is on hold too many cars, but it's something to start with. And maybe the senior citizen from 6 to 6, because it does interfere with the senior citizen. 6 in the morning, 6 at night, and maybe on the weekends, you know what I mean? It does not interfere with the senior citizens at all. Those are 2 starting spots we can start with. And, you know, if we put an ordinance down, we have to give them a chance to park somewhere, as Lou says. We can't just throw the people out of the town, you know, they're all hard.
I agree.
People.
Listen,
I mean, you can't just throw them, you know, out of town. So,
I agree.
And maybe for that, we'll have to come up with another spot. They have to get a decal so they can park in there, and then as the lots get filled, we have to find them somewhere else for them to park at. You know what I mean?
But they have to be trucks that are registered here in town. But I don't think we should house trucks that are registered in all other towns,
that comes with a
especially
decal.
nearby towns.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, but the other thing too is how long are we going to keep talking about this, and when are we going to get this done?
Mhm.
We've been talking about it for a long time, and I just don't want to keep going round and round and round and never having this resolved.
Well, look, I mean, we can, so there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts. Some of this is a policy decision, and, you know, as far as who's going to take ownership of it, that's George and I's responsibility, and we work with the chief, so
Okay.
we don't have any problem understanding that we have to do that. The problem we have is this, is that, and I'm just going to take kind of where you just left off, which is, yeah, that's fine, we find someplace else, but it has to be only long-range registered vehicles. So the example I just gave you 10 minutes ago about somebody who has a business, who lives in town and has a business that the car's registered someplace else, now has a problem, right? Because it's not a long-range registered vehicle, it's the only vehicle he has for his business. He would have to leave his truck at his business wherever it is and Uber home, because he can't park because he doesn't have a parking
Right.
spot. So the answer is that we know that there are going to be examples. The other thing that we're going to have is that, and this is an issue that I think we've talked about over and over again, I suspect that a lot of this is workforce transportation. So this is somebody who works for a business and gets to take the truck home, and then he goes from there to a job right from home. Without that truck to take him home, he does not have any way of getting to work.
Right.
My opinion.
And those people are going to be, that's another problem that we're going to have, because those people are not going to meet the criteria of it's registered in town, and that's going to be the issue. if we ban, we're talking about the amendment to the ordinance, right, is banning commercial vehicles. We could do it, but then we get into your next issue, which is your next issue is, if we do it and we never issue a ticket, then everybody's gonna ignore it.
Right.
So we have to,
Well, that was my
I
next.
I think where we have to come back to you is, and I think we have to, the only way to do this is to make an assumption. The assumption is, and let me see if this is okay. The assumption is we're gonna explore what it would take to have a ban on commercial vehicles in residential zones, parking on the street in residential zones from 8 at night to 7 in the morning, right? Let's call it, yeah, because I have to have some parameters. Now we have to go back and George and I have to talk to the chief and say, okay, if we're gonna do this, what does that mean? Do we have to have a special that comes in at, 4 o'clock in the morning and his or her responsibility is to now go out and tag every car that has it? I mean, I think, right, is that what we're talking about? Councilwoman, I think that's the direction, I think that's what we have, because otherwise what happens, and you're all exactly correct. We say that there's 3 alternatives, each one of them has a different issue, and 2 weeks from now we talk about the 3 alternatives again.
Right.
So I think we have to start there, and like I said, we have, and I think I agree with the mayor. I think that we may want to talk to somebody in the business community or something that would tell us, what would happen. And is it possible that because I don't know the city streets enough, the chief does, are there hotspots? I mean, if you pick a half a dozen streets that is really bad, or is it going to say it's
You don't get a lot of complaints on Fifth and Caucus, everybody parks on the street no matter what. On Rockwell, everybody parks. But you go to West End, you get a lot of complaints.
Okay, so that's good. So
You know
maybe
what I
what
mean?
it is that maybe
You know
we're
what I
talking
mean?
about.
These are wide streets that people who got a lot of
Yeah.
wide lots, but
Yes.
they don't want,
Yes,
That's
maybe
it.
that's what we do.
I mean, I understand wanting to talk to someone in the business, but what about the residents that have to deal with this?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying maybe if you told us some streets we could walk, we could,
I mean,
do a survey.
I know condo complexes will not allow the trucks to park in their parking lots, so they're all out on the street in front of other people's homes. I mean, that's not right either.
Well, can I say something? And it's good to know those examples, because that circumstance may be that we go to the condo association and say, hey, this got built, these vehicles fit, they belong to the whole purpose of you having parking was for the people who are gonna live here. You've gotta let people park there, right? We can understand, oversized vehicles, but a van is a van is a van, right? Maybe that's part of our problem. Maybe that's what I'm saying. We may be able to find some of these. If you tell us, look, go and look at this section, West End, go look at West End, go look around this condo complex, we can do that. And it's not unusual when you do parking and traffic regulations in a neighborhood to do a survey, to go up and down the street and say, look, would you be in favor of doing this? Would you be in favor? And that's where we would get but I think you're exactly right. It's not just the business community. We need to get the neighborhoods.
And I mean, there's people that drive their trucks home, and they do have a vehicle to drive back and forth to work.
Fair enough.
But someone's going to give them their oversized box truck to bring home because they know it's allowed on Long Branch.
Right.
And
Well, but that's a good example of it's not. The answer is that's illegal in Long Branch right now. That is an enforcement issue.
Right.
And Chief, is it possible that we could, maybe as part of this, also short term, so we'll come back to you in 30 days, but put together maybe some kind of targeted enforcement, right? Maybe we put some specials on 4 hours a night, 5 days for a couple of weeks and see what it does. I mean, is that
I think that would be great to come back in 30
That's
days.
right.
It's fun.
You still have some available?
Till September 30th. I mean, we can extend them. I'm sure they would.
I'd love to work, right?
I'm sure they'd love to work another few weeks.
I have one question, Mario, you probably know better than anyone, is of the vehicles that we're talking about in general terms here, is there a good portion that are just glaring violations of our existing ordinance They're the box trucks, the
No.
really oversized.
No, not really.
No?
You'll find a few with extended letters, because our ordinance says that we can't have extended letters past the vehicle.
Right.
You'll find a few on a Sunday morning, but not too many.
Okay.
But mostly it's those cargo vans in front of the people, people's front doors, I mean, those are the biggest problems that we have. We have, if you drive a certain section of the town, you're gonna have a large truck here and there, but nothing really major.
Okay.
But on weekends, but like I said, the cargo
But
vans.
not the tow trucks,
Nah,
trailers,
Nah, not too many. We had a few in Long Ranch High, but
landscaping trailers.
Oh, I've seen those.
Okay, because those are clear
They're all
violations
illegal.
of our ordinance.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, a lot of the stuff we talk about
Just
are
take a
clearly.
walk down Atlantic Avenue, you'll see them.
So if the chief can muster up some people to go out and patrol for these violations, we're still gonna have more, I think, more enforcement than we're having now, because I just don't think it's on your people's radar.
It's
when
not,
they're working.
and we can definitely do that, but again, you run into the 8,000 pound issue where they run the plate and it comes up 7,500 pounds.
Then their hands are tied, but.
Yeah, right, and then your
you know
hands are
what?
tied.
I don't know that everybody's ahead of us on that right now.
No,
Because if
no.
they get inspected by the commercial vehicle team of the state police, they got a problem if they're
Right.
overloaded. So some of these people are aware that they run a risk if they're overloaded.
So
The
just,
thing- The thing, George, with that is the state police don't bother the regular van or regular
Mhm.
mason dump.
No.
They bother the tractor
the big ones,
trailers
yeah.
and the big ones. They don't, that.
Yeah, they don't
so
really know.
when they register, they know they know what they can register.
Mhm.
they all know where they can
Yeah,
park,
yeah.
where they can register. It's just something to think about while we're doing this, and I think you're right that if we just do a certain section of town, they're just gonna move around, but can we explore doing residential sections only and
Sure.
leave business
Yeah.
sections open? Because, I mean, that seems to be the issue, right? Residents are.
Well, I think,
so-
but at the very least, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, because then we kind of leave it up to them to find a place to park in a business zoned area where there's no people's houses and maybe it's in front of a business that nobody really cares that
Sure.
it's parked there. And then it's not our problem to, provide a lot
Definitely.
and then have another lot once that lot gets filled and have stickers. And then what I'm afraid of, if we do that, you're gonna have people's vans in a lot and it's like, come steal me.
Yeah.
Come open the door
Understand.
and come take all my stuff because you have 15 vans lined up here.
I think the
You know?
Middletown ordinance is, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
some of them are by zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we could do it by zoning or.
What do you think of like just do south of Broadway for now? Is that too much?
South of Broadway?
Is that too much?
I don't care, yeah, I just think if
Well,
we,
look, we'll put that ordinance together, and
Yeah.
then, and maybe maybe we're wrong about the unintended consequence. Maybe it clears itself up, and it's not gonna, maybe what's gonna happen is that half of these trucks are just gonna go into driveways, right? Maybe they're not, because now it's more convenient to move your car and put your truck in the driveway than it is to drive across town.
Chief,
right?
for all intents and purposes, there's no real active enforcement on this ordinance right now. right?
now, listen, if it's big, like, I was driving down Fifth Avenue on my way here, and I saw a tractor trailer parked at the
Right.
corner. It was obviously, shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
And guys didn't get around to it, so I got on the radio and said, hey, call, someone needs to come move
But
this tractor
if
trailer.
your people go out and start doing the obvious violations, it's gonna get people's attention quick.
I think they do the obvious ones already. I mean, I think they do the box trucks. I think they do the tractor trailers. Every once in a while, we may miss one, but even, trailers, bus trailer or trailer body, it says 8,000 pounds. So I don't even know if we can enforce that the way that it's written.
So we should change that to be any trailer.
I think,
So-
right, I think that would be the
Any
first
trailer.
thing.
Yeah.
Any trailer, then that would help us to enforce that.
So
Is there an issue with regards to, George told me about this before, and then I just heard it again, about you can't have a ladder that stacks, that comes out, extends past it, but you can go up as high as you want.
Our city ordinance says it can't extend past the front or back bumper of the.
Yeah, but isn't it an equipment violation for you to just,
So they're allowed by state statute, they can extend, was it 4 feet past, Mary, you might know, 4
Yeah,
feet past the bumper, as long as you have the red flag, the 18-inch square red flag, so they all know that.
no, but what about how high up you can go?
There isn't any, is there?
I don't think there's
There's
any.
gotta be. You mean it's not unsafe to drive a car with 20 feet worth of
I
ladder?
think there's a catch-all that says loading as to spill. I think there's a catch-all. I don't know if there's
Well,
any.
one of the
number.
ordinances that I came across had a vehicle length of 25 feet.
Which might be another way for us to help
And
us.
the other thing I put as a
enforce it.
suggestion for consideration was a 7-foot height inclusive of equipment on top. I saw one the other day that had to have 4 or 5 ladders stacked up.
So I think two of the things.
Not bad.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
I think two of the things that we're trying to do is to, one, separate committee work versus the work that comes to council. Recommendations come to council based on the committee work that right now we're saying the three of you
I
guys
think, I
did.
think we got it. I think we
So,
have enough that
yeah,
I think that we
right,
can.
exactly. And
yeah.
then the other thing is just the idea of watching the follow-up so that we kind of calendar this thing out so we know a month from now it's on the agenda that you're going to bring back
Well,
a
Kathy,
written.
Kathy
Yeah.
put it in our notes and she'll remind us before the council meeting 30
Yeah.
days from now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if
Good.
we would do trailers or maybe some kind of length or something like that,
I got it.
that would
Yeah.
help us enforce
So-
it. And then if you want to do, residential zones, we can do that.
If you got people available,
Yeah, no,
I
we'll
think
do that.
we should start.
We'll do that.
Let's move on here.
Yeah.
We're going to hold the ABC ordinance discussion at the next meeting.
There's no urgency there.
There's no urgency, and we have a draft ordinance that we'll submit to council. George, can we hold the beach replenishment discussion? That's something that's on.
It's just an FYI, it's on the agenda for tonight. I just wanted to,
Yeah, go ahead.
to just explain to the council where we're at, and I'll be quick with it. A few months ago, I came and we had a discussion about the beach renourishment program that DEP and the Army Corps are offering. That's been put out to bid, and originally we had just one base zone that was going to be from Tackanassie to Howland. With the award of the bids, it's been expanded from Tackanassie down to Pullman, so they're going to double the area. With double the area comes double the cost to the city. However, in the meantime, what we discovered is Monmouth County offers a grant program that we can apply for, where out of the 25% of the total cost of the state share that would go to the city, they will take 10% of the total cost of the project. Short story is, we were looking at an initial commitment with just the base of it in the $500,000 range. With the inclusion of the county offset, if we're successful, we will get double the area covered for just $634,000. I say just, it's a lot of money, but this is an $11 million project in Long Branch alone. So I think for the benefit, our share is very reasonable. And tonight on your agenda is the approval of the submission of the application to the freeholders. Monmouth Beach and Seabright are also pursuing these funds. But we didn't know about this program previously. So we're going to get double the bang for the buck, really, by pursuing this. Just wanted you to be aware of why we had this grant application.
What had we
tonight.
budgeted? Just
We didn't budget because when we have the
yeah.
final numbers, then we would
Okay.
bond. And that was our discussion
So that
previously.
means we have to bond for it?
We would, yes. So tonight's agenda item is simply your approval to submit the application to the County Board of Freeholders.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
I think we're up to review the, okay.
I'm fine.
Any questions regarding the questions or concerns? The agenda? Yes.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Agenda?
No, I'm fine. The one question I had, I asked and I got the answer.
We need a motion to close the workshop.
So, second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We need a motion to adopt a resolution to go into executive session for the following items. Personnel matter, client attorney privilege, contract negotiation.
Second.
Mr. Viera?
Yes.
Dr. Vogt?
Yes.
Mrs. Wittes?
Yes.
Dr. Selly? Yes. Mr. Dagler?
Yes.
There's a drink of water.